Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Author Dive In. And this is a podcast where we dive in head on to tackle all things geeky and pop culture and everything that I and Kate like and love.
Yes, I am Kate Evangelista.
And I'm CJ Edmonds. And first and foremost, we want to kind of like apologize for the delayed telecast. This was supposed to be every Monday, but the
Yep.
previous Monday we could not give you a telecast because of the weather and affecting all the technical aspects of the show. So we apologize for
Yeah.
that.
And
Today
I
the
think
weather is slightly better.
and I'm a big believer in things that happen for a reason. So since we're filming this now, we can actually add some pop culture news that
Yes.
we would like to show and we would like to incorporate into the podcast
Hmm.
just so that we can share even more things that we are interested in that you might also be interested in with us.
Yes, exactly. So we start the show now with pop culture news before we go into the discussion of the episode that will be in focus. For this podcast episode, we're going to be focusing
Yes.
on episode 3 of The Haunting of Bly Manor. Yes, we are still talking about that. We're going to be talking about the entire episodes of The Haunting of Bly Manor. We have 9 episodes to cover. We are only on episode 3. But
Yep.
let's start off with some pop culture news. I reported before, and not on this podcast, that there is an ongoing adaptation of the popular Filipino comic book series called Trece. This
Mm.
is written by Budget Tan and drawn by Cajo Baldissimo. Now, for those who are not familiar with what or who Trece is, well, Trece, her full name is Alexandra Trece, and she is a supernatural defender of the city. Now, just like Robert Kirkman's graphic novel series, The Walking Dead, it is drawn in black and white, and this incorporates a lot of urban fantasy characters in our local folklore, from the aswang to the tikbalang to the duende, nuno sa punso. So these are characters, mythological characters in our folklore that we grew up in. And what Kaja and Bujet have done for the ongoing series is that they have fused this very uh, high-paced and supernatural action fantasy tale woven with these characters into the background. So we were all happy when Kajo and Budget announced that Netflix actually wants to adapt Trece. Now, this means exposure not just for Trece, but also for Philippine folklore as well. Because we've all heard about the Greeks, we know about them. The Romans, we know about them. But do the international audiences know about the aswang, or the capre? They don't know about these things, and it's a good thing with the reach that Netflix has. International audiences will be introduced officially to Philippine folklore. So I would like to I would like to show and share a first photo that was also shared by Budget and Kajo as to how Trece will look like anime-wise on Netflix. So let me show that there.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah. So she has bangs. She has bangs, not like me. I don't have those. If you take my hat away, I probably will scare you, but I will not do that. So what we can see here is Trece looking out the window, and I believe that is a
Manila.
probably Manila Bay. Yeah.
Mhm.
With or without Dolomite, we can't say because it's night. Whether it's been washed
Oh my
away,
god.
washed away by the rain, we can't say. We can't see either. Yeah, but that's how Trece looks like. She is, as I said, a supernatural defender of the city, and she will have two sidekicks with her. I will not say who, but they are very powerful individuals that help Trece defend the city. Okay.
Okay, do I lose my pop culture card and my Filipino passport when I say I have not read the comics yet?
Ah, that will be something for you to do during the holiday season or this fall holiday season. Yeah. I'm planning to bring that and reread it again, and obviously I will be Instagramming it and tweeting it again.
I'm
But
so bad. I
yeah,
am so bad.
but
I swear.
that's
Do
okay.
not come for me. Swear, do not come for me. Trece fans out there, do not come for me. I have attended several conferences where Trece is a feature at that conference, but I have yet to read a single one. But I mean, I haven't read any of The Walking Dead either, but I have watched the series. So maybe this could be my introduction to the graphic novel.
Why
uh
why not?
yeah, to the comics. And are they adapting true to the comics, or are they introducing a different storyline for this one, like
They
The
have not
Walking Dead?
given us. They haven't given us a detail yet on what exactly is
Yeah, that looks good.
completely going to be shared. Yeah, looks good. So that's how she looks like, and she has her knife with her. More will be explained as the series progress about where the origin of the knife came from, and how it helps her defend the city.
So when
Um,
does this come out?
it comes out next year, but they have not given a specific air date yet.
Mm.
So we're all happy and we're all excited to even just for now wait with bated breath for the trailer. I'm sure that will be coming soon. But these
I wonder
photos,
if it's I wonder if it's gonna be in English or is it in Tagalog?
I think it will be in English
Ah,
since in Netflix is an original. I mean, Netflix is an international platform, so I would love it that it's done in English. Now, if in case they decide to do something in Tagalog, that would be wonderful. And we dubbers cannot wait to sink our teeth into that if in case they try it in Tagalog. So
are you
Netflix,
gonna fall in line and
in
audition
addition, yes,
for?
hell yeah. Capital HELL, yeah.
Hey, Netflix, if you're listening, CJ here is a really excellent dubber. So
I'm
if
not
you're
sure about
gonna need
excellent, but I love doing what I'm doing. So,
you're gonna need voices, hit him up because you're not gonna go wrong. And
thank you, Kate.
I wonder if they have like Filipino representation in terms of artists and the people who are actually animating this, or are they like? Because that's what I wonder. Is like, are they? Is this like being done at the Netflix studio, being done by American artists, or are Filipino artists a part of it as well?
I wouldn't be surprised if they do have Filipino artists working as well.
Mm.
Um, they haven't really gone as far yet to give us an update on who's who involved. Obviously, Kajo and Budget are involved with this because it's their baby, it's their project, and I'm sure they are the official consultants to the adaptation. But with regards to people working in the background, from the inkers, the people who write the script, they haven't. But if in case, even if they don't have as much Filipino representation in the background for people who are bringing this to the small screen, the mere fact that we're getting to see this and introduce our own mythology to the international audience is already a plus plus for me. Oh wait, the storyboard artist, by the way, is Filipino American. Okay, I just did
Okay.
check. His name is Jay Oliva, and
Mm.
he is also the show's executive producer. He was worked on storyboards for Wonder Woman, Thor Ragnarok, and Deadpool. Yay!
Wow,
Wow!
that's an impressive resume.
Yeah, exactly. So, what better person to serve as executive producer?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be something that would be fascinating for international audiences as well.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know if it's already out, but I believe that there is a young adult novel written by a Philip
Mm-hmm.
that also focuses on aswang.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, I forget the name and the title, but maybe next time when we film, I'll feature that for my pop news. Since we're still in spooky season,
If
and
you are.
it would be a good counterpoint for this one also, since it does uh, look into Filipino folklore and whatnot. Also,
Is that book available locally, perhaps?
yeah, it's
It
it's
is, right?
it's published by Random
Andrew?
House
Oh, Random
or
House.
no,
Okay.
yeah, it's an international. It's published in the United States,
Hmm.
written by a Phil Am, which talks about aswangs. I just forget if it's young adult or adult, but the main character and his family migrated to America, to Seattle, I believe, and
Wow.
then they are aswangs. So
Very
it's that,
nice.
yeah, so it tells that story.
Ah,
I probably will feature it the the next time that we
maybe next
film
time.
for
Yeah.
episode 4.
We
Yeah.
call it aswang, but if you're a fan of the TV series Grimm, I love, 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 love Grimm to death.
Yeah.
They actually featured an aswang, but more like they call it the Azwang.
The Oswald. Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
no, our accents.
It was a revelation to me to find out that the policeman Reggie
Mm.
was actually Filipino. I just thought he was
Yeah.
like Asian or Singaporean or whatever, but I didn't
No,
know that. Yeah,
he was Filipino. He was Filipino.
exactly.
And it was a big thing because they did like interviews here. He was featured on ABS-CBN or GMA. But they did like an interview, this whole thing about that particular episode
Yeah,
and how they incorporated the aswang in that episode.
which I love, 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 love.
Because for me, okay, when I was younger, I kept conflating aswang and manananggal. At
Yes,
one point, I thought they were the same thing when I was younger, and then I started to realize, oh no, it's different. Um, although I think that's only because I watched a movie with the manananggal in it that sort of also used aswang qualities
mm-hmm.
with that. It freaked me out. It really did. It made me fear Windows because I don't remember who was starring in it because it was a long time ago. It came out in the 90s. And it was just that the aswang kept attacking them. They were stuck in this house,
Okay,
and then it was trying no, not the aswang, the manananggal was trying to get in through the windows,
yeah,
and so they had to like wait it out until sunrise, and you're not sure if they were going to survive or not, and they were essentially just stuck at that house. So I was like, oh, I hated windows after watching that.
after that,
I kept thinking like if there was a manananggal, it would go and enter through my window and take me
right,
and
and
eat me.
and that's why we have steel bars in our windows.
Exactly. Oh my god. Yeah, I know. Oh my god. At where I live, there's a house here that actually looks like Guantanamo. If you
No,
search Guantanamo, it's actually that house, and I'm like, what is he hiding in there? That it's like a fortress. There's even like barbed wire along the. I'm like, uh,
I don't
um,
know.
okay. Well,
Maybe
I don't want to judge. It's just that it makes you think. It makes you think. Why is he so scared of being? Uh, I don't know. it's it, it it's
maybe he's hiding. Yeah, well, yeah, that's what we would usually I guess judge people. It's like, why is he boarding himself? Inside the house. What is he hiding? What is he hiding inside, or what is he hiding from?
no,
Uh,
because the grills on the windows. I understand it's a Filipino culture thing, and it's also a protection thing. I understand. But this guy takes it to a whole new level. It's not just grills on the windows. It's like barbed wire around the fence. It's barbed wire below the grills, all
Oh
the
my god.
windows, and then there's
Oh,
CCTV. Which I'm like, it's a fortress. It actually is, and the house actually looks like a box. It just looks like a box. It's not like it's modern. It's in the modern style, but the type of modern where there's no. It's not. There's. It's basically a box. Yeah,
looks
it's a
like you have
concrete
something to
box.
share with us next week, if in case it's possible.
Okay, you know what? I cannot. I cannot. If I take a picture of this house, that person is probably gonna come for me because of privacy and all of that. But seriously, just search Guantanamo, see what it looks like. It's that house.
Yep.
Because when I was like, oh, what it seriously. Okay. Anyway, so let's move on to my to what I will be sharing for our pop news, which is also in time for spooky season, which I will be talking about the Conjuring 3. Um, and if we can share that, it's already there. It's already there. There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry, my bad. I closed it there. All right. So I'm talking about The Conjuring 3. This is actually the third movie of the series, but
Mhm.
it's the eighth movie in the Conjuring universe. Because,
Right.
as you know, the Conjuring universe has already expanded into Annabelle. Annabelle, I believe, already has three movies.
Yeah.
And then there's The Nun.
The
Uh,
nun.
and then I forget the fourth the because there's Conjuring 1 and then
Hmm.
Conjuring 2,
Two.
which was set in England. Conjuring 1 was the almost like the plantation house with the big
Yeah, the
tree.
plantation house. Yeah.
Yes. And then Conjuring 3 actually is very interesting because the first look video, not actually a trailer, but the first look video just dropped yesterday. So you get to
Oh,
see a behind the scenes of
okay.
the movie. I will link it down below if you want to watch
All right.
the first look. It's actually very interesting, and this movie actually tackles, if the first two looked at haunted houses, this actually tackles demonic possession. It focuses on the trial of Arnie Johnson, who it became a sensational trial because this is the first time ever in US history where they used the devil made me do it defense. So
Okay.
so he was charged with manslaughter for murdering his landlord during an altercation. But what Arnie was saying when I was researching the trial, is that what all he could remember was he was going down the stairs and then nothing after that. And then the next time that he came to himself, he was already in a jail cell and he didn't
Mm,
know what happened between the time that he was going down the stairs and the time that he was or when he woke up in that jail cell. The story goes that his landlord was uh, drinking heavily at that time, and then there was a confrontation. This is told from the case was told from the perspective of the women who were there trying to separate the two men from each other, and
okay.
eventually the landlord was eventually um, Arnie. This is I'm just talking about the case. I'm not sure if they're going to show this in the movie, but in the case, it was said that Arnie took out a knife and stabbed the landlord several times.
Okay.
So what they were trying to say here, and I believe it's going to be featured in the movie, is that the so Ed and Lorraine Warren, this is part of their case files. It's one of their more sensational stories because, like I said, it it uses the devil made me do it defense, and um, it talks about them trying to, they were brought in to try to prove that this man was possessed at the time that he murdered his landlord. So it was that kind of, so I feel like it's very interesting, this storyline, because one, it takes, again, it goes through actual events.
Right.
It's just that I don't know how they would show it via Hollywood, or like, are they going to be like really true to the story, or are they going to
I'm
uh
sure they're going to change things in
yeah,
order
I
to
believe
fit
they change things.
the storytelling cinematically. But I have to ask this question: are you sort of relieved that Conjuring 3 is not about Amityville horror?
I feel like they purposely avoided to
Yeah.
make it Amityville, just so that they, because one, Amityville has been done several times already,
Right.
but there is still a possibility that, I think they're just looking for a fresh angle on Amityville, because I believe when Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated Amityville, the house, they really did not find anything. That's
Mm-hmm.
the, yeah. So if you are going to make it part of the Conjuring series, then you might have to like change some of the
Yeah.
events to fit. But then my question is, what is the new thing that you can add to the narrative that hasn't been discussed already at length by the different movies
Mm-hmm.
and TV adaptations that have been done by with Amityville
Because there
horror?
have been a lot. There have been a lot.
Exactly. So I do appreciate that they diverted to this storyline.
Yeah.
The Conjuring 3, or it's as it's called, The Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It, is that it was slated to be released on September of this year, but of course,
Yeah.
since COVID happened, they moved it to the summer of next year. So 2021. It's supposed to come out 2021. And I actually look forward to it. And I
Unless they
hope
move
that,
it again.
yeah, and I hope that by then we're allowed to go to the movie theaters, because I really want to watch this at a movie theater
Me too.
before
I
I
don't.
watch it.
Me too.
Yeah, because
No streaming.
yeah, horror is one of those genres where it's really good in a dark movie theater on a big screen, not necessarily just on a TV. Well, I guess you can recreate the horror experience with a big screen and a dark room, but the movie experience. But I really, really would want to watch this first at the theaters.
Me too. Me
So
too.
I'm
Me too.
crossing my fingers for that, and it looks good. If you look at the first look and all of that, I believe they show the devil, the demon that possess. Actually, because the thing is, the way the story goes is, a demon possesses a child
Mm-hmm.
who is the son of a couple that is related to Arnie Johnson. And then that's when they call in Ed and Lorraine Warren to exorcise the demon from the child. And then what is said is that the demon transfers to Arnie. So
Oh,
so that is the events that go with the story. So I don't know if they are going to do it that way, where they're going to show the child, because in the first look I see a child with be encountering a creature, which is actually very reminiscent of the way Guillermo del Toro designs his monsters.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
this is, yeah, so there's that one shot there where you have a child with a monster, which I assume is the demon about to possess him. So I this is not directed by James Wan. He's actually just producing this one. I believe, what's his name? Uh, the director of this is Michael Chavez. okay, which I believe also directed La Llorona.
Yes, La Llorona. Yes, yes.
My tongue was not cooperating with me there. But yeah, I believe he directed that, and then James Wan discovered him through that. And then since James Wan had a lot of conflicts, he couldn't direct
Hmm.
Conjuring 3, so he passed the helm to Michael Chavez to do
Right.
this one. And looking at how much fun they were having at the first look is just about like 3 minutes long, but it looks like they had a lot of fun filming this particular installment of the series, and I look forward to seeing it when it comes out.
Yes.
Hopefully in the
Cannot wait.
theaters.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of watching movies in the theaters, I know that Wonder Woman 1984 is still set to open on Christmas Day in the US. Uh,
Mm.
Director Patty Jenkins is not in favor of moving or the screening of the film onto streaming services. So she says, with the effort that they've put in, she also feels that this movie should be seen by a family and should be seen on the big screen. So same sentiments also for Conjuring 3. If I
But
remember, mm,
can I just say I disagree with her and her
okay,
decision. It's one, it's not gonna make any money. It's not. People are not gonna go. And two, the theaters are going to be forced to do social distancing, which would mean only about 50 or 25% capacity. So
right,
it's gonna bomb. If she is not going to move it to a streaming service, Wonder Woman is gonna bomb. And I'm sorry, that's just the reality of it. A majority of Americans, a majority of people are not comfortable going to movie theaters yet,
yes,
especially during a time when the cases are spiking in the United States. So it's reckless for her to not agree, and I feel like as we move closer to to the holidays, I feel like the executives have to um, either move it to next year the way that the other movies have done,
yeah,
or go through streaming, which Tenant did, and which made a lot of money for Tenant as well. Which it's I don't know. It's just I just don't agree with that. That you think people are gonna come out to watch your movie during this time? I don't think so.
yeah. I feel that the thought process in that decision is that people are so have been deprived for so long, and that it is because of that deprivation, it will force people to, well, to be a little more extra careful, or maybe be a little bit carefree in wanting to go out and see a movie. But that's
Unless you wear a hazmat suit, which they will not, because they don't even wear masks. They're
yeah,
not gonna come out to watch this movie. Not in the way that they came out to watch the first one.
yeah,
It's bad timing. I feel bad for the people who made the movie. I feel bad for Patty, but she has to uh,
reconsider.
reconsider, because this is going to be a flop. It's not going to make any money if that's going to be the case, and it's going to destroy any chance of a third movie being made. That's just, you know,
The
that is
reality.
just it, right? So, um, we digressed into talking about Wonder Woman and other movies. So why don't we hop on to talking about what our main topic is today, which is Haunting of Bly Manor, episode 3, The Two Faces, part 1.
Hmm.
Okay, so if we can go back to sharing my screen, I do have the pictures with me for
Okay.
this one.
Let me add that back.
All right.
And,
So
115 is yes. One, two. Ta-da!
all
Okay.
right. Okay. So we're gonna we're gonna do it differently this time. Where I think it's much better if we just focus on pictures
Yeah.
rather than showing the actual video, because you can go and watch it. It is already available, and it's that type of, if if you haven't watched it yet, at least here you'll be able to see images that hopefully will um, entice you to
Mm-hmm.
watch the series, and then at the same time, with our input, we can also maybe further convince you if you have yet to watch this. It's
Yes.
a
It will
great.
give us a reason to swack you with a frying pan if in case you have not seen it. But sorry, I digress once again.
It's okay, it's fine, and it's a good thing to, to, I think, binge watch now, especially with spooky, with Halloween just being
Perfect.
around the corner. That would be perfect. At the same time, uh, it watch it in a dark room. Why do I say watch it in a dark room? Because so that you see the hidden ghosts too. Because if you watch it in a well lit room, and your TV, the resolution, because the thing is, if it's a well lit room, the TV resolution, you won't see the hidden ghosts.
Yes, and there
Of
are hidden ghosts. Uh,
Yeah, of
M-
this.
Mike Flanagan has taught us well.
Yes. So the episode begins with, we see Peter Quint finally. At first, we see him as a reflection in the window with Miles looking at him, and then we immediately cut to a scene from the past, probably a year ago, where he is buying clothing and things for his employer, which we then realize is Henry, the
Yeah,
uncle of the
two
two
children.
children of Miles and Flora. Right? So you mentioned something about the song that was playing in the background.
Yes, that was actually "Tainted
Tainted
Love"
Love.
by Soft Cell, and that was a big hit back in the '80s. So that the inclusion of that song alone gives you an idea of how the '80s was, and in what year it was specifically. It was redone by Soft Cell in 1981, but it was originally recorded by Gloria Jones in 1964 by by her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and at the same time, it the lyrics itself does play into the relationship that Peter and Rebecca are going to have, and I think also looks at the different relationships that are in this series. Okay,
Hmm.
because they are not the only ones with a budding with relationship that plays out in the series. We also see the relationship that plays out between Jamie and Danny, and
Hmm.
then we also see the relationship that plays out between Owen and Hannah. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's kind of, and the relationship that, there's another one which I will not mention because it's a spoiler at this point. But
Okay.
there is another relationship that we will see. You get the one I'm referring to, that we will
Um,
see in, I
yeah,
think, episode 6 or 7 play out, and that
not
is a
yet, but
spoiler.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
there yet, but yeah,
you're not
we
there
shall
yet.
not
Oh, good,
we
I
shall
didn't mention it. All
we shall
right.
not we shall not spoil. We shall not spoil.
Yes. So we see the parallels of the first episode with this episode 3, where Rebecca goes in for an interview for the au pair position. That it will
Hmm.
essentially be that she will be taking care of Miles and Flora for whatever duration, unspecified duration. Uh, it's a live-in position, which, excuse me, it's a live-in position, which basically Peter says, if I didn't hire you, because it's in the
Hmm.
scene where he says it, Where if I didn't hire you, I would be doing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so it's kind of
I
that.
can't do all. So I need to delegate and have someone do the nanny bit. So that's
Yes.
to you.
Yes, and if you note, this is also reminiscent of the car ride that Owen and Danny have
Hmm.
during the first episode also. So in this case, it is Peter who drives Rebecca to the manor. But the thing is, if you see Peter's facial expression in this photo, in this screenshot, you can already tell the kind of person that he is. Basically, it's in the eyes, I think, where you really see his the way he calculates things. And
Hmm.
with the with with the articles that I have read, they keep calling him a master manipulator. And if you watch this episode, you can really see that play out
That he is.
through.
That's could it be also that his facial expression in this photo is a little bit of he's irritated at having to do this job because uh, I'm an executive, quote unquote. I'm a learned person. I do not need to be driving people around the city. So I am not a driver. But
Yeah, he's just over it.
yeah.
And but I mean, if you look at the beginning of the episode where he seems to be enjoying himself shopping, you
Mm,
can also see where he is coming from there, where and it comes up a lot in this episode where he is belittling the manor.
yeah.
He saying it's ridiculous, saying that it has too many rooms, which I have mentioned that it's like a psychological way of thinking. I'm going to belittle the thing that I want most
Mm,
in this world. So he is, instead of going through the regular channels
yeah.
of getting what he wants, he ends up doing all the wrong things.
It's like he wants to downplay whatever it is that he wants to to achieve or to get for himself. Maybe because he's fearful that someone might beat him to it,
Mhm.
or that's just his way of downplaying the whole thing so that no one takes notice of that prize because he feels that it's only him who
Yeah.
deserves that prize.
Yes. So after we see them together, we do we do move to this photo, um, where it's already in the scene where Danny is talking to the officer,
Hmm.
reporting that Peter Quint is roaming the grounds,
Right.
right? So it's by the way, I find it so annoying because here, Mr. Police Officer is just not doing his job. Can I just say, right? He's not.
He's complaining and he says that you've already complained, I've already gone through the house, so what more do you want me to do? I do not see the supposed intruder that you are referring to.
Yeah, and I'm like, he doesn't even have a flashlight. He says he did a round around the house. And the only reason why he does a second round is because Hannah threatens to call Henry
Yeah.
and tell him all about this. So it's like, dude, I get it. It's late at night, but we are mostly women and children in this house. I mean, yes, they are. It's just women and children in the house because Owen and Jamie already went home,
Yeah,
right?
they stay there.
So it's like if they say there is an intruder and they believe that someone is threatening that, take it seriously. I mean, yeah, please take it seriously. And you can even see it on Danny's face here in this photo because she's like, this guy, do I have to do everything myself?
Like,
That's
and you
basically
call yourself a police officer? Yeah,
no. It's like a protect and serve. Really, is this what protect and serve is? And by the way, in this scene, there is a cut where we see it from the perspective of Danny, and so basically, it's almost like if the police officer were looking at her from the door, right? So
yeah,
we see her facing the camera, and then behind her, at the end of the hall, is one of the secret ghosts, which is the soldier, which you see actually following Danny. I keep saying this. I keep seeing him follow Danny around in the as the series progresses, and it's I don't know. I think it's one of those he's one of those ghosts that are attracted to her for some reason because he follows her around and you see her often. You see him often when Danny is alone or is when Danny is there. Most
yeah.
likely you'll see
It's
the
most likely
officer.
he's there, right? Right. That's right.
Yeah. So it's kind of I really the scene. It's like I hate it. You do your job, and then they end up doing it themselves.
Yeah, going around the house making the rounds. I must say that Jamie is a badass. She is a gardener, but looks like she also knows how to carry a rifle well. So she
Yeah,
is fearless, and that's one thing I like about her.
I don't know. Have you already seen the episode that tells her backstory? No,
Not yet.
not yet. All right.
I'm just up to four. I have yet to dive into episode five, so
Yeah,
I'm taking it slow.
I think her backstory is in episode 5. Because what I love about this episode is that we see for the first time Jamie expressing interest in Danny, but through a subtle way, which is holding her hand before she leaves the house, which is in the towards the end of the episode. But here we see that because Danny having had enough of the police officer not who doesn't seem to care that there is a man roaming around the estate, the manor, she goes out holding a fireplace poker, I think, and a
Yeah, fireplace
flashlight.
poker and a flashlight. Yeah.
Yes, and does her own patrolling of the grounds. It's like, and it's the American in her, I believe, because you know, I
That's
wouldn't.
right.
Yeah, this is the scene in the horror movie where people are like, "Don't go out there alone."
Don't
You
you
know,
know what's out there? What
if
is
this was a
wrong with you?
yeah, if this was a slasher movie, it's a classic scene of encountering the slasher, and she's a blonde, so she might have died. But if if since she's the main character, I don't think she would have died if it were a slasher film. But yeah, so she encounters Jamie and with the gun, and it's a very great scene because they start to uh, patrol the grounds together. And in this part, we come into the chapel, which is fascinating, by the way, for a manor house to have a chapel in the grounds, because usually a chapel is only reserved for castles.
Hmm.
So for it to have a chapel, that's quite unusual. Um, and then we come upon the candles that Hannah
Now we
has.
know how rich the Wingraves are that they can have a chapel.
Yeah, well, that's true, right? So, um, and we come upon the candles that Hannah lit, where there is always four of them. She always lights four of them. And here in the Philippines, it's tradition as well to, in some churches, where there is this one long row of candles, where if you make a small donation, you can light the candle. It's
Hmm.
usually for intentions. sometimes remembering dead loved ones, or if you want to like send the prayer, and so you light a candle and you make your intention. So I feel like this is what Hannah was doing for in this case. So what do you think of this scene right here when they were, you know, uh,
Um, it's part of the the budding relationship building of Danny and Jamie. And for those who have not seen it coming, I beg to disagree, because in episode two, when Danny was crying and Jamie, sees her, that already is there's a certain kind of attraction between them that's there. So if you have failed to see that, then you may need to open your eyes a little bit bigger in order to see the other things that you need to see as the episode in the show progresses.
exactly. And there's it's just so many layers that goes on with, because this episode also looks at the budding relationship between Rebecca and Peter,
Hmm.
which is why it's like it again with the parallels, right? The past parallels the present. So we
Yes.
get to see how Peter essentially manipulated Rebecca into falling in love with him.
Hmm.
And I think I have that in the next. Okay, here. This is an example of how Peter manipulated Rebecca into liking him. Because in the beginning, if you see in the first few minutes of the episode, Rebecca has no interest in him at all. Well, I think she finds him attractive, but she wasn't like thinking, ooh, this person is someone that I want to have relations with. But
Yeah.
it's in this scene where we actually see him become manipulative, because as you see, Flora and Rebecca are looking somewhere. They're actually looking at Peter in this scene. And Peter is holding a bouquet of red and white roses, which at first you would think, oh, he's going to give it to Rebecca. But he actually gives it to Flora. And, and that is one way to manipulate, because since Rebecca loves children, she clearly loves children, and she mentions this that she is good with children,
Hmm.
that
That's
a
right.
way to her heart is through the children.
Yeah.
And
Very smart. Very smart.
I, I know it's like if you don't know how the relationship plays out, it looks sweet, but with the way that the relationship plays out, especially when Jamie says it's the wrong kind of love, it you start to understand that it's not sweet, it's actually manipulation. And in this part uh you would see the dolls, uh they are
The
actually starting
Flora.
to make talismans
Yes.
already, and Flora was already making dolls. So I feel like this is already like one way to explain why Flora is so attracted to making these little talismans.
Right.
And so this is like a part of that there also.
There is a line there that Justice says that dolls are like people, and you make up stories for them. To which Flora
Yes.
counters, they're not made up. So does this mean that the house already has ghosts in it even before Jessel arrived? Hmm.
Mm.
Makes
Well,
makes me think.
Peter does mention that Flora talks to the wallpaper.
Yeah,
So during the car ride, so you know,
it's
it's that
possible.
hint. Yeah, it's a hint already that she is an oddball. And once you start realizing what's going on in the series, it's not really the wallpaper she's talking to. So
Exactly.
it's kind of, and we see that in of the hide and seek game of the kid in episode 2, where Flora actually shushes one of the ghosts.
Yes.
right? So it's that, it's that she has power over these entities, maybe, you
And she's
know?
not afraid.
Yeah, and she's not afraid. Yes, exactly. So from there, we go to this scene, which is, is already a bit into the relationship of Rebecca and Peter. This
Hmm.
is like a picnic scene, and they're actually looking at Peter and Miles playing. It's not football, it's probably rugby. They're just tossing the ball
Okay.
around. Yeah. And I like how
And
the past is like golden colored, and then the present is more grayish,
because it
red.
always rains in the UK.
Yeah, apparently they have 1 week of summer over there.
Yeah.
Uh, 2 weeks of summer, and this is probably one of those days where the sun is out and everything is pretty and beautiful, and they are by the lake, and Flora hands Rebecca's talisman to her. Like she created her own doll, which I think sealed her fate. Her fate. I honestly think so, because I feel like, and this is just a theory of mine, upon watching 3 episodes, is that every time Flora makes a doll,
Hmm.
specifically of someone, they die. They get
Ah,
stuck in the
okay.
house.
Hmm.
They do. That's a theory of mine. That when Flora creates a doll of that person, they get stuck in the house. Because if you notice here in this picture, because apparently Miss Jessel loves all the colors, so
Hmm.
Flora makes this observation. Well, Flora says, Miles says if you mix all the colors together, you get black. So she creates a doll with a black dress. Okay.
Black dress,
And
black hair.
yes. So remember that. Remember that, because when we go to another scene, another photo, I'm going to mention something that is connected to this doll right
Okay.
here that I think solidifies my theory. So next
Okay.
one
Photo.
is this scene. Um wait, no. I think, okay, I'm not sure if this is in episode 3. I think no, I I think it is. But what I'm trying to refer to here is the batter scene where
Yeah.
Owen was making everyone taste the batter of his cake, which I am still
Owen has a lot of
repulsed by.
puns. He has a lot of puns in his
I know. Yeah, because she makes he makes Hannah taste the batter, and then I think it spills a little bit, and then he says she's a battered woman, and I'm like,
yeah.
oh my god, Owen, why? It's so endearing and so cute. Um, but at the same time, I'm like, why are you making everyone taste the batter that way? He like takes the spoon, gives it to the person, returns the spoon back.
Right.
I'm like, you're all
And
sharing saliva,
since
basically.
you cook, you're most especially, affected by that because if you want people to try what it is that you're doing, you get a serving spoon. You don't just get straight from the batter and pass it on.
Yeah, exactly. Or you could get like a batter, a spoonful of the batter, and then you could just have people like dip their finger onto the spoon
Yeah,
and then taste it. You don't have to like re-dip the batter each. Oh, I swear, if you are someone who knows how to cook, it's like that. That is just wrong. It's so wrong, especially in our situation right now. You just can't.
exactly.
You just cannot.
Cannot. I'm sure Gordon Ramsay will also have the same reaction as you.
With a lot of cursing, I would think. You're like,
Oh, yeah.
what the F is he doing? What the F? It would be like, He'd be like dropping f bombs the entire time. He's an idiot. What is he doing? I could just imagine Gordon Ramsay already. And the reason why I mentioned this scene is because this is where we see the reality of what Jamie and Danny were talking about when they were during the sleepover scene, where Jamie mentions that it was more about possession than love.
Mm-hmm. Then love. Yeah.
Yes, because when Owen asks Rebecca to taste the batter, she and she does because everybody does,
Yeah.
right?
No
You see
biggie.
Peter's face. It's like murder, murderous, and of course he flies off. Yeah, he flies. He goes off the rails. He basically does. Yeah, he does, and it's that possession again, and he makes her feel. And I'm so pissed off at this because he makes her feel less than she is, and makes her feel paranoid that Owen was somewhat manipulating her into liking him, which
Yeah.
I'm
And
like,
mm,
hello. It's obvious he likes someone else. He's
yeah.
just making her taste because he's trying to decide if it's lemon or strawberry.
Yeah.
I'm
More lemon or more strawberry. The thing about with manipulators, and I've dealt with people like that in my own life, their main arsenal is always guilt, wherein they will make the intended party feel guilty about their action, second guessing each and everything that they say, in order to bow down to whatever it is that you want, because you are manipulating them.
Exactly. And they make you paranoid. They make you misjudge yourself
Yeah.
because you are, of course, like with Rebecca, she's coming from an innocent,
Excuse me.
she's coming from an innocent place. Everybody's tasted the batter at this point. She's like one of the well, Peter was the last one, but she's like the last one of the last to taste the batter. So if she refused, that would just be insulting to Owen, and
Yeah.
everybody would, find that weird, right? So I think this is in episode three, episode two, I think. But anyway, it's just to illustrate the scene with Owen asking everybody to taste the batter and making Miss Hannah. Okay, after all of that, right? Can we just go to this scene with the creepy Miles?
Story
Miles or not
time. Not Miles. Not
Miles? Yeah, exactly. Where the kids have story time, right? This is towards the end of the episode where they dress up. Flora dresses up as a cat, so cute,
Miles.
and it gives me. Let me show you this picture. This one, right?
Yeah.
So you have Flora there on the stairs. They start off at the top of the stairs, right? And it gives me Sound of Music vibes,
Oh
really,
yeah.
because and I really feel like it's connected to that because in the Sound of Music, if you've seen it, they have a puppet show in the movie, and here Miles talks about puppets and strings and how the puppets forgot that they had strings.
That's right. I wonder, the character in Miles' story is Claude. I wonder what's the significance of Claude in the story, because Miles seems to be, um, he comes from a different place when he talks about that. When he talks about the puppets, it's like, is he talking
Yeah.
about himself, or is he just mirroring the emotion of the story that he's telling? So, makes you
Yeah.
think again.
Because Claude is the puppeteer or the person who created the puppets,
Yeah, he's like Geppetto.
right? And
Yeah,
then the puppets, what Claude had to leave, I think, and then the
yeah.
puppets had the life of their own, and then they started forgetting that they had strings. And then when Claude returned, they weren't they weren't subservice. They weren't subservient to him
subservient
anymore.
to, yeah, that they have to, that Claude had to remind them that you are,
Yeah,
within my control, that I have to rein you in if you kind of like step your bounds.
exactly. And he says something about pulling on the strings,
Yeah.
right?
And
Pulling
speaking
on
of
the
pulling
strings.
strings, who else is pulling strings in that episode? We know who it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like it's the way it goes back to how hello baby. Okay. So he's being needy. This is John. This is John.
John,
Um he is being needy and so yeah, there will always be cats in any of my
okay,
um
down now.
yeah, yeah, so it goes back to Peter and how manipulative he is towards Rebecca, right? And their relationship, because after he leaves her after he leaves her during that confrontation where he accuses her of flirting with Owen,
Flirting with Owen.
he when he returns to the manor, it's classic abusive relationship where
Hmm.
you do something abusive and then you do something sweet to make that person forget
No,
that you
yeah.
were abusive. So
Uh-huh.
he presents her with the fur coat and all of that, and I'm like, I was uncomfortable the entire the entire time because I'm like, man, you're smart. Don't fall for it, but she does, and
Exactly. That's the tragedy of it.
yeah, yeah, it's so sad. And then so here, right after, it's such a beautiful house. The way I don't know if this is a set. It's such a beautiful set the way they did it because it's gorgeous. The foyer of this house is just stunning. And so right after we get a phone call,
Hmm.
and during this moment where Jamie actually says, because Jamie thinks it's
Peter.
that the phone calls come from Peter
Yeah.
and that he's just not answering, and then she says sorry, she's dead, right? And how awkward is
Coming
that?
up. I
Yeah,
know.
and how awkward is that the news that she actually gets, and I'm just going to adjust. There you go. Because he's being needy. Okay. So
Uh,
the thing is that the news she actually gets is of a death.
yes.
And, and it's just, sad how you were making a joke and then suddenly, you know how that always happens, where you're
Yeah, it does.
joking
It does.
and
The
then
irony of
actually,
it, that there is actual truth behind the joke, and you were not
yes.
aware of it, and that's both uncomfortable and that's also awkward.
Yeah, and her face is classic here because she just found out the news, and it's that it's just so sad. It's just so so sad the way the way you were just making a joke earlier, and then suddenly you get the news, and you're like, not good. And the thing is, everybody heard her make that joke.
Yeah.
So when she had to say that someone passed away, actually passed away, it's just this face says it all. Which then leads us to this, which is, I think, one of the last scenes. Yeah, one of the last scenes in the episode where Hannah is comforting Owen in this scene. And right after this, when Owen drives away, because we get an encounter with Jamie and Danny. Right. This is where
You
Jamie.
have that photo. Ooh, can't wait to see that photo.
I don't have it because I was trying to look for it. That scene
Ah,
where she reaches out and touches uh, Danny's hand.
okay. Let's see if I
When
can,
Danny reaches out and touches Jamie's hand, I couldn't find a photo of that, but it's just that she sort of bridges. It's like you see Hannah. bridging a gap with Owen, and then minutes later, it's Danny bridging a gap with Jamie, and Jamie saying, "Who knew?" You know that I don't know. I feel like there's this relief, especially during that time, when you find someone who is just like you. So it's that, she was relieved in that sense that, oh, okay, I'm not the only one. This is not one-sided, right?
Yeah, yeah. That there is truth to what I'm feeling. Um,
Yes. That
there
there
is.
that there is a possibility that it's reciprocated,
Mm,
right? And I love that. I love how subtle it is because, again, if we look at the time, this was during the 1980s. This was in England, and only recently I think that they lifted because it was for many years illegal to be homosexual, to be gay in
yeah,
England and in many places. And you could actually go to jail. And some of the punishments were, for men, it was medical castration. So you would then be administered drugs that would sort of decrease your sex drive in that way so that you are not their explanation is so that you're not attracted to
yeah.
other men.
I'm sure electroshock therapy would also be one of
For
the
the
of the
women, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, which is really sad. So I guess that also plays with the it also plays into the why Danny and Jamie were being careful, where while how Danny was being careful at bridging that gap between her and Jamie, because of course there's still a chance of rejection.
yeah,
And that is the most awkward thing, right? Is that if you just misunderstood the signals, it it would certainly put a wedge. So it's great that I like Jamie's reaction where she's like, "Who knew?" So
yeah.
it gives us that hope, which
Exactly.
then towards the end of the episode, you're like, there's a jump scare towards the end of the episode,
But we won't
which
show that.
we won't show that, which is kind of, uh, I think, plays into the next episode.
Yeah, and they always
Um,
do that. They always do that.
yes,
That's the way Mike ties in or bridges one episode onto another.
yes,
I was wondering, can you go back to that photo of Miss Jessel and Flora playing the dolls
at the lake
in the room?
here.
Yeah, because after we said that. Peter goes in and gives the flowers to Flora, but Flora gives one red rose to
It's just
Jethel. In a way, it's an indirect way of showing that the flowers are actually for Miss Jessel and not to Flora, and so they both go off and look for a vase to put the flowers in, and we are left with Miles and Peter
mhm,
and and Miles says, why do women gravitate towards flowers? Because it's flowers are foolish. I mean, there's nothing good about flowers.
mm,
And I like what Peter had to explain to Miles, that life is all about keys, and that
yes.
and that people are locked rooms, and because they're locked rooms, they all have different locks, and you have to guess the shape of their key, because there are different keys for different doors, that you have to try out different keys until you find whatever works for you. Like, he gives an example that for Wingrave, his key is money. For
Mm,
horses, it'll be carrots, and for women, it's mostly flowers. So
yes.
this harks back to episode 2, which is called The Pupil. We discussed this last week,
Yeah.
In Miles kept saying and explaining why he had to do those horrific things to people, and also at the dorm because he had to find his that person's key. So now we know
Yes.
what that key is or what he meant by that.
Yeah, where he got the idea of keys,
Yeah.
which is definitely will play into the question that is still on my mind that I cannot ask until we get to that episode because again, spoiler.
Okay.
But at the same time, it it does tell us how going back to how manipulative Peter can be
Yeah.
because because of the keys. And again, he also again mocks the house because he says this overly extravagant house with its many rooms, and each of them need keys, right? So that's a good thing to keep in mind when you move forward in the episodes, when you watch the rest of the episodes of Bly Manor moving forward. So, overall, what are your thoughts on this episode?
The episode is called "The Two Faces Part One." So my thoughts on that, I was wondering, okay, what do you mean two faces? It's basically that we all have different sides of our personality that we share with other people, and the other one that we keep to ourselves. So that is both a parallel to Jamie that we see that the Peter rather that Peter can be manipulative, but at the same time he can be sweet, and sometimes you have to draw the line where in is he actually being sincere or is he being manipulative.
Right.
For Hannah, there's a little bit of that as well wherein she had to tell Peter off and bar Jessel and Peter from the forbidden wing of the manor when she discovered them. And I also liked it that Hannah had to be assertive because we don't see much of that assertiveness in Hannah in episode 1 and 2. We always feel that she's so, you know, she's just, taking it easy. And you're supposed to be the caretaker of the house. You're supposed to be like a very strict uh, governess of sorts, or an equivalent of a female major domo in the house. But
Yeah.
we don't see that in
Yeah.
Hannah, and she's
We
usually out of it.
yeah, which is and the thing is about the two faces. I also think that it's the looking at the past and the present and
Mm.
how we move back and forth with from both. And in the past, we see it just a counterpoint to what you were saying. Like in the past, we see Hannah assert herself more,
Uh-huh.
especially when she catches Peter and Rebecca in the Forbidden Wing. And this is when Peter gives Rebecca the fur coat that isn't really supposed to be hers.
Right.
Um, and Hannah really confronts Peter there, and you also see his murderous face in that scene where I'm just I'm just surprised how sleazy this person can be, and how when you push him, you really see the the face behind the mask, the reality of who he is, which also harkens back to the title of the Two Faces. And yeah, because he has one face and then another. And I think for me overall, this episode is more. It's a slower episode,
Mhm.
less scary moments, more backstory, so that we can understand where this is coming from. Because when I first watched it's more of like, this is a boring episode. But the more you watch it, the more you understand that you need this episode because it's a lot of information that is being presented in this episode will play out in future episodes.
Right. I have to admit that when I first watched the episode, I watched one, two, three, all at once, and that was at the end of a very tiring day. So I was dozing off by the time I got to episode 3. So and I felt like, what am I doing? This is supposed to be a show that I like. Why am I dozing off? How sacrilegious am I at this moment? But given to what you said, that it's mostly about talk and there's not much jump scares that's going on, I guess that also played a little bit part into that. That I was
Yeah.
not yeah, attentive, or my focus seems to be expectant more on the jump scares than anything. So that kind of like made me doze off a little bit. But of course, when we had to, since we're going to be discussing this, I had to rewatch it again and take notes, and and found out to my surprise that the episode itself is pretty layered, as how I guess Mike Flanagan really wants us to see it, and it will only be as layered as how you perceive the episode to be. That's
Yes.
what I can say about it.
And this is what I love about the series is that it begs for multiple viewings. It's
Yeah,
not just view it all at once and then you're done. No, it's so much better if you watch it a second time over because you understand more of the nuance of the story, and you are able to dig through the layers that you have mentioned and discover more of what is going on in the series and in the storyline. So, final thoughts on episode 3?
just bring a cup of coffee with you when you watch episode three, in case you're expecting to be jolted. Hopefully, the coffee will jolt you a little bit more than the jump scares in this episode. But yeah, I just echoing that sentiment that you have, that we need this episode in order to understand the ones that follow after.
Yes, exactly. And so for me, it's that I liked that we got to see more of the relationships play out and that we get to understand where these characters are coming from. Because if you've already, once you start watching future episodes, you will understand why it's so heartbreaking. Because when the stories play out and when I started connecting the dots, it's like, oh, why? So, yeah, so that's it for episode 3
Yeah,
of
that's it for episode three of
Holy,
Author Dive In.
yeah, of
And
Author Dive In and episode 3 of The Haunting of Bly Manor. So
uh
please, if you liked this podcast, please make sure to subscribe to our channels and to all our social media, which we will link down below
yes,
so
we
that
will.
you can join in the fun. And if you have any thoughts about the episode, please share it in the comments, share it with us. We would love to interact with you and discuss not only Haunting of Bly Manor, if you have thoughts about Trece, if you have thoughts about The Conjuring 3, or if you have thoughts about how reckless Patty Jenkins is being, then please put it in the. I'm not letting it go, damn it.
Yes,
Please put it in the. Because I want Wonder Woman to do well. That's all I'm saying.
me too. I
And
want Wonder Woman to do well.
she is
I
making a big
echo that.
mistake by not moving the release date.
By
But yes, put it
moving
in the
it.
comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. Give us
Yes.
a like. Make sure to hit that notification bell and the subscribe so that you don't miss a single
Yes,
episode.
agree.
So thank you so much for joining us. We are your hosts. Once again, I am Kate.
Once again, my name is TJ, and we
I
will
will
see you
see.
all next Monday
Bye.
for another episode of Author Dive In. Bye, everybody.
Yep.